Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Stadium Business Fridays, which is a webinar hosted by the Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium. This is actually the final webinar of the year of the series, and it's going to be a really exciting one, a very engaging discussion with some great experts that I'm about to introduce you to. Today's topic conversation is actually a continuation of a previous one. So it's around the business of events, and today we're focusing on the building blocks for recovery for the events industry. We're in lockdown 1, things have changed, activities have changed, and the question now is, since the COVID-19 pandemic slightly changed the way events are delivered, changed the way that events can happen, what do the steps to recovery to kickstart the events industry look like? How do we begin this recovery and make sure that it's successful? I'm excited to host you. I think there'll be lots of great insights, new learnings about the impact of COVID-19 on our industry and what it's revealed to us about taking the industry forward. My name is Nanelle Musan. I'm the co-founder and CEO of The Fifth Season, which is a creative entertainment marketing agency. But today I have the pleasure of being your moderator and introducing some really great panelists, experts in the industry. The first I'll start with is Amanda Kotsa-Nhlapo, who's the Chief Conventions Bureau Officer at SA Tourism, which is the government agency tasked to position South Africa to be the preferred tourist destination to the world. I also have Justin van Wyk from Big Concerts, this Chief Executive Officer. Big Concerts is South Africa's largest premier live entertainment company. The company is the only African promoter to feature on the Pollstar list of top 100 promoters. Hi, Justin. Hi, Amanda. And then we've got Debbie Paulson Abbott, who's the Vice Chairperson of the Association of African Exhibition Organizers, AXO, who is committed to promoting the industry, encouraging businesses to invest and participate in exhibitions. And Debbie is also the Vice President at DMG Events Africa. Hi, Debbie. How are you doing?
Good morning. Good morning. Hi, everybody.
Good morning. Tony Feldman, thank you for joining us as well. Tony is the Managing Director at Showtime Management, which is one of South Africa's largest and most experienced producers and promoters of world-class entertainment concerts and theatre events. Hi, Tony. How are you this morning?
I'm all good. How are you doing, Nanelle?
I'm well. I'm perfect. Thank you, Tony. And then finally, I have to introduce you to our host from Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium, who's represented by Phumlani Hlatshwayo, who's the HOD commercial at Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium, in charge of ensuring the stadium's commercial success by developing and increasing the different sources of commercial revenue. Thank you, Phumlani, for bringing us all together this morning.
Yeah, thank you, Nanelle, and thank you to all the panelists for participating today. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. We're about to get started, and before we do, just some quick house rules for those that have joined us virtually. On the screen to the right of what you're seeing, so you'll see the panel, the faces of all of our brilliant experts on the panel. You'll see a little tab on the right of your screen. There's a chat, a question, and a poll section. You're welcome to drop your comments in the chat section. If you have any questions, it'd be great if you drop it under the question tab so that I can pick it up really quickly, and hopefully we can incorporate it into our discussion and pose, your question to the experts that we have this morning. And then, yeah, if you want to have a conversation and share what we're doing here on your social media, use the hashtags, #OurStadium and #EventIndustry. We'd love to have your feedback and your insights and have it shared by those that couldn't log in and join us this morning. That's it. I think we're ready to get started. There's some interesting questions that we have already. And thank you for everybody. I can see a few people have joined already. Hi, Deborah. We're also looking forward to the discussion. Lial Ramsden, thanks. Okay, so Debbie, let me pose the first question to you. A lot of businesses have felt the economic impact of all of the forced lockdowns over the last year and a half. Some businesses have actually closed completely. Is South Africa still an attractive destination for exhibitions?
Hi, Nanelle. Thank you, and good morning to everybody. Good question. And in short, yes, it is. But I think our runway is running short. The longer we are not able to open, the more the risk is of us losing very, very skilled and talented people. We've already seen a lot of people leave the industry, take on new professions, new careers. And I'm afraid Brand South Africa has very fierce competition right on its doorstep, especially my industry, which is exhibitions. They're mobile, they can move at any given time. And we've already seen some big exhibitions moving into countries like Kenya, Nigeria, Egypt, governments that actually see the value of what our industry brings to the economy. And I mean, we have a saying at DMG that we're not event organizers, we are economic enablers. And we have felt the impact both from our direct industry, but also the industries that we serve. We provide incredibly important platforms for the sectors that we serve to actually conduct their business. So, yep, I think South Africa is still a great and a very, very, very enticing destination, but the time is ticking, unfortunately. We have to be able to open very, very soon.
I love the key word that you just used. We're not event organizers, we're economic enablers. That's definitely a coin phrase. Justin, I'd love to hear from you. You've just announced, along with your partner Discovery, a South African tour date for Justin Bieber's tour. Does that mean we're back in the business in terms of live and large-scale entertainment events? I mean, this is obviously hugely exciting.
Yeah, well, it is exciting. It's also nerve-wracking. You know, we're on 2,000 cap in stadiums now. We have a long way to go until we get to 100% capacity. But, you know, we've taken this step. We had an opportunity that came fairly quickly to be included as part of the global tour announcement. We felt as an industry that it's very important to let the world know that South Africa is still open for business. So regardless of where we sit with the capacity restrictions, you know, the bus is leaving and we have to get on it, or we will, as Debbie has said, you know, the business will go to other markets that are open. You know, events are a key driver of vaccine demand for those of you that have followed the trends around the world. That, you know, you practically can't go to any large gathering anywhere in the world without showing proof of vaccination, or in some instances a negative COVID test. So, you know, these big events serve to just remind those that want to go to large gatherings that this is what needs to be done. So super exciting. I know some parents aren't too happy with us that we've done this in the middle of the exams, end of year exams. So apologies to those that have young kids that are affected by this disruption, but we had to get it out there and let people know we're open.
Well, I think that a lot of parents may be coming and secretly wanting to come to that concert anyway.
Yeah, definitely a lot of moms and some guys as well. They'll never acknowledge it, but there are a lot of guys that would love to go to.
Yeah. Okay. So Justin, the bus is leaving. We're open for business. Large scale events are actually driving vaccinations around the world. So, okay, that's great to know. I think, Amanda, if we look at it from a tourism point of view, pre-pandemic, how much of a role did events and conferences play in the tourism ambitions of South Africa?
Yes, thank you so much, Nell. When you keep on saying about experts, I'm actually here to listen to the experts, to be quite honest. So I'm just as excited to see you. You know, the private sector that is driving the business. But I just want to just give us hope, you know, a little bit. I know that stuff is not where it's supposed to be. You know, travel is very slow in coming back, you know, minus 76% for the American market and so on. But I do believe that events can actually change that, because if you look at the past, you know, we globally, the events industry is actually value at $1.245 trillion. You know, I mean, it's a massive, and that is, of course, everyone. You know, it's not just the meetings and exhibitions, but I mean, as you heard of Devi, and so for me, you know, critical need for business events didn't change. You know, we still need them to either build the profile, to share knowledge, and all that, and those are the stuff that is happening when these events, in whatever format, is coming to our country. You know, or to a country, and then also just to say that, you know, jobs was 10.3 million jobs around the world, direct jobs. I'm not talking about all the others, because I think Debbie also, you know, touch on that. There's so much broader in our industry than just that you know, that is directly linked. For South Africa, we had 200,000 jobs that were, you know, that we had offered. And as we said, you know, unfortunately, a lot of skill is gone. And, you know, but maybe it also gives an opportunity for us to build skill, but we will have to work hard together, and to make people believe that, you know, this is an industry that can come back. But if we can just hold on to, I think the important thing, that we need events to drive this recovery. We need events to make sure that the economy is coming back. We need events, you know, for the sectors that we are offering them in, for the knowledge economy, as we call it. You know, in the meetings industry, that's what we say, knowledge economy. You know, if you come to a meeting, it's critical for us to have meetings. Here we are today. It's to share knowledge. You know, it's to build business networks, and of course also to regulate. You know, to make sure that you know, that there is a economy to move forward. So for me, you know, I think it definitely need to come back to those levels. I was reading, and it says that in 2023 we were supposed to have even more. You know, it's 1.5 trillion or something. You know, so the projection was there. What is great about events, and I mean, we just heard Justin saying, you know, that it's future driven. You know, it is a demand driven, because it is future driven. It's not we can bid for events that are way in the future, and so build the pipeline. And for me, you know, that definitely help to come back to those levels. Maybe not as soon as we like it to be, but definitely a driver for it.
Okay, definitely. Okay, so it's a driver of events, a driver of the economy. And I'm wondering, Tony, from your side, I mean, your company's been involved in massive entertainment spectacles. We're talking about Disney on Ice, Monster Jam, Ultra South Africa. What do we need to do as an industry to bring back more of those mass, large-scale live events? Is it going to be a slow, phased approach?
Well, I'm not entirely sure. We definitely do need to have a slow, phased approach in order to build up the supply chain, which has been decimated from the pandemic. We need smaller scale events to get people working again, to get people, you know, to get the cog of the entertainment industry moving again, because I don't think it's an industry you can just turn on and off with a switch. There, you know, as we said, there are plenty of companies that have gone insolvent. There are plenty of companies that have shut down. We've lost really good people to not only to the entertainment industry globally, but to other industries who have left the entertainment industry. So yes, to get large-scale events going again, we're definitely going to have to build that supply chain, and it will be a phased approach. However, to do international events of the scale and the cost that we want to do, it's all or nothing. It needs to be 100% capacity, no social distancing, in order for us to be able to make it financially viable. So, yes, phased approach, but we need an idea. We need to know what is happening. What are the stepping stones that are going to get us to fully opening and to 100% capacities? What are the milestones that we have to reach to go from 2,000 people outdoors to 50% capacities? To, you know, there needs to be more conversation going on, because, you know, Justin's taken a massive leap to put on a star of Justin Bieber, without the knowledge of whether there will be 100% capacities there. So yes, phased approach, but at the same time, for us, it's all or nothing. Otherwise, we've got to look at small scale events.
All or nothing. Okay. That makes sense at this time. I mean, it's going to take a lot of courage and even more determination from the eventing industry, I suppose, and from the private players like Amanda just described, the private players and companies like yourselves that are driving it. Phumlani, if you had to comment on that, I mean, the stadium has had to be quite creative over the last year to keep things commercially viable. How have the commercial objectives been changed or altered after COVID or after lockdown, so to speak? Have the priorities shifted now?
Thank you for the opportunity, Ninel. And first of all, I'd like to welcome you all once again to the Nelson Mandela Bay Business Fridays. So yeah, I think Ninel, for us, you know, we're viewed as Gqeberha is viewed as a small town, you know, and we are a facility that operates within that small town, you know. So it became imperative for us to remain relevant, you know, because for us to achieve anything, we have to work twice as hard as the guys in Joburg or Cape Town, etc., you know. So for us, we've had to create an attractive events calendar. You know, if you track our social media platforms right now, you'll see that amongst all the stadiums, I think we are the busiest. You know, that's just my opinion. But yeah, I mean, we've had to create our own events, you know, partner with the right people to produce, you know, some form of activity that is both attractive and because, you know, we're not only worried about revenue, it's about the brand itself as well, you know. So yeah, for example, we're having an e-games tournament tomorrow, you know. These Business Fridays have helped us stay in touch, stay connected to the experts like you guys, to share knowledge and see how best we can leverage the current situation, you know. We've held comedy shows, you know, hybrid, of course. I know Amanda will have something to say about that. You know, we've held a few music concerts, and there's a few coming up as well. And then our CSI initiatives have kept us going as well, you know, like our Cancer Awareness Day, celebrating Mandela Day, etc., you know. Also, you know, digital has become key, you know, hence I think we're the first stadium to have our own app, you know. We're in the process of enhancing it because we want the app to do more for us going forward, you know. So the stadium is digital. You know, we've got screens everywhere, interactive screens, etc., So for us, we just had to keep going. You know, as hard as it is right now, we had to be active. So that's what we've been doing.
That's remarkable. Comedy, hybrid events, a digital app. This is what it took this year. That's amazing, Phumlani.
Yeah.
I wanted to just circle back. I think, you know, Devi, we had your colleague Prajani in our last webinar when we were still, you know, it wasn't lockdown 1. Now that she was mainly speaking about this phased approach to reopen the events industry, and now we have moved to level 1. Are we still thinking about the phased approach? Tony mentioned, you know, earlier, you said yes, phased, but also, you know, we've got to get going. We you know, Justin, you said the same thing. You know, the bus is leaving, we've got to get on it. What does this phased approach still look like from the point of view of AXO right now, Debbie?
Yeah, so I'm talking, you know, from the exhibitions industry. We believe that exhibitions and to some degree events should run regardless of lockdown level. So when we talk about phased approach, we don't talk about we're talking just about the kind of the framework of what those events look like running at any kind of level. We use the argument on the exhibition side that an exhibition is no different to a mall. We are definitely hosting a temporary retail space or engagement space where you have pop-ups for a period of time. And I think what we find, and I think my colleagues on this panel will agree with me, what we find incredibly frustrating is that we are a very regulated, very health and safety orientated industry. Regardless of COVID, we've been following very, very stringent regulations. We follow the SASRIA Act, which is ensures that we have safety, which is number one on our priority list. And we've been doing so regardless. And we know that we can host events much safer than any mall could. Than any mall that's open and able to operate, or any casino that's able to operate. So I think we're a little frustrated as an industry because we've been working and lobbying and speaking to various stakeholders for nearly 20 months now, and I think that I think it's time that we have to be able to open. And I just to Tony's point. If we're given some guidelines, we'll abide by them. I think we're probably the most compliant group of people that you're going to come across, because we have to be. So, I think it's. I agree. It's all or nothing. We have to open. I think there have to be some frameworks that we follow, and I'm very confident that as an industry we can do it. So, hopefully, someone's listening to us and someone's going to kind of heed our call.
Yes, that's actually quite interesting. And I mean, yes, I recall Progenies describing or making that comparison about the exhibition space, and I guess commenting on potentially the unfairness of just having those restrictions apply, as a blanket to the whole industry and not making any exceptions. And I mean, Justin, yes, Tony.
Now, just to add to that, it's yes, you look at the malls. Malls have been open. It's incredible. You go to restaurants. There's 100% capacities in restaurants. You sit on an airplane. There are 100% capacities. We're an industry that has abide by rules. We've got books and information coming out of the kazoos on what we have to deliver every time we do an event. So it's heartbreaking to see that we're the first industry to get smashed, and we're the last industry to reopen. Not 2 cents.
That's so true, Tony. No, that's so true. I mean, Justin, I'm sure you share some of those sentiments.
Yeah, look, I've been intimately involved in this process through NatJoints and NETLAC and the South African Events Council and B4SA for many months now. We've been lobbying, working with the sporting federations as well. SAFA has been a great ally in this process to progressively open up the industry and lift the capacity restrictions. Rugby, cricket, SASCOC. I mean, everyone's been involved. We've been commended as an events industry for the way in which we've come together across the spectrum. And the government is listening to us. But it's a balance between saving lives and livelihoods. And, we've seen this in many other markets. The event research program in the United Kingdom is a perfect example, where events such as the British Grand Prix have gone ahead and reported only 201 cases actively positively linked to the British Grand Prix. Wimbledon, similar numbers, 350,000 people went to Wimbledon. They had something like 283 positive cases. And I'm saying positive cases linked through the NHS, their COVID tracking app, which is compulsory, which also carries your vaccinations and your testing certificate. So, these are actual scientific facts. Lollapalooza in Chicago, similar things, 385,000 people, just over 200 cases. So your infection rates at a large gathering, particularly outdoor gatherings, is lower than 0.06%. And I reckon your chances of getting it in a shopping mall and sitting on the airplane flying up to Johannesburg this morning is probably a little higher. So, so it is frustration, but I think that, the government is listening. and certainly if they're not on this call, then we'll tell them next week when we meet for our next forums. But I'm positive that the momentum will see us opening up this space, the event space. But the reality probably is that it's going to be on a vaccinated only, failing which a testing basis, and the testing is something in our country. It's not, testing is not free. In the United Kingdom, you can go to a pharmacy and you can test for free. Here, if you want to test, costs you $850 for a PCR or $250 for a rapid test. So, yeah, look, I'm very positive. It's, I think by Q1 next year, we'll see events upwards of 30 to 50% capacity, but with some enhanced safety and health protocols and a number of other requirements. But it is rather unfair that you can go to a mall on a Saturday and 50,000 people can go through that space, but don't you dare do an expo and have all these enhanced protocols. That's a super spreader. But we can chat about this forever and ever.
No, it's great that this discussion is happening. And I mean, Justin, it's heartening to hear you be so positive. And I mean, to hear that sort of projection, of the increased capacity by the first quarter, I'm sure will be really great news for most of the guests on this in the audience and that have joined us today. I mean, it's been quite some time since we've had a big musical act like Justin Bieber perform in the country. Is this, how do we reignite the country's attractiveness to more of these international music acts? Since we're not, we're not necessarily just picking up where we left off. We have to add all of these new criteria and safety protocols. But is that, going to do it? Is that enough to enhance our attractiveness as South Africa to host these international tours?
Well, look, we've unfortunately during the pandemic lost one of the key venues in our portfolio in Johannesburg, and that was the Ticket Pro Dome. So that's hit both the exhibitions and the concert industry pretty hard. So, what a lot of these other markets are opening up with the same venue portfolios, and often, there've been new venues that have been added, like Seattle's added, the Climate Pledge Arena, New York's just getting a new arena now, Manchester's building a new one. So, as the Ticket Pro Dome has closed, and certainly Tony and I have been talking about this extensively, it's created some opportunities. We think that there's a great opportunity in Johannesburg as the economic capital of South Africa and to a large extent sub-Saharan Africa to build a new venue. So, apart from the arena portfolio, the rest is still there. The exhibitions venues are still there. The stadiums are still there. And we've seen this explosion. The company our parent company that's listed in New York has just reported a record quarter for its ticketing business, Ticketmaster. It sold more tickets at a greater value than it's ever done before. It's been fueled by these major on sales with acts like Ed Sheeran and Coldplay and Adele at Hyde Park. And I don't think South Africa's off the map. The challenge with South Africa is that we're a long haul destination. We're far away from everything. Unfortunately, our neighboring countries just aren't offering viable markets anymore. Sure, West Africa is starting to come online, some parts of East Africa, but South Africa is still the powerhouse in the events industry. We've got the best venues, we've got the best infrastructure, the most experienced people. We're a country of event hosting. We just last week were announced as the 2027 host for the 50 Overs Cricket World Cup. Us and England are the only two countries in the world to have hosted a rugby, cricket, and football World Cup. So, we are that nation, and a lot of the infrastructure, the airports, which I note is quite empty, really, to see going through Oliver Tambo, and it is quite empty. But a lot of the infrastructure that we have today was built because of our pedigree of hosting big events. So I don't think that's going to go away. But as Tony said, we need to rebuild the organizational capacity from scratch. There is no scenario where we go from 2,000 to 50% next month. All of our event security staff, we've lost a lot of our supply chain. A lot of good people have moved. Those that could find opportunities have gone to Dubai. And we need to rebuild that. And the only way that we can rebuild our event sector is by creating opportunities, by having, us announce Bieber, and hopefully Tony will announce his shows soon, and the exhibition sector will follow, so that suppliers can take on debt again, and they can rebuild the fixed capital stock that was lost. There's no one's going to build another dome unless there are 50, 60 events in the pipeline which can use the venue. So that's what we're building towards. But yeah, I'm optimistic that things will start picking up from here.
I'm glad to hear that. I love the optimism, and I think the what you just said as well, that I wanted to pick up on. We're not off the map. We still have great venues in South Africa, great infrastructure, great very experienced event and production staff, and we're not off the map. I wanted to just get back to Amanda. You've already described how attractive South Africa still is as well, from a meetings, exhibitions, and tourist destination. What does the tourism sector have in mind as part of this recovery plan, so to speak, as well, now that international travel and everything is also back? Yes, as Justin described, airports are still looking a little bit empty, but what are some of the plans that are coming up from your point of view, and what role does the eventing and our industry play?
Thank you so much, and I'm thank you, Justin, for the optimism. I think if I can just link to something that Justin said now before I go into it, is that there's always out of a pandemic, and specifically for South Africans, there's always a positive. And the one positive thing that I do believe that came out of it, and I hope that everyone of my esteemed panelists will agree with me, is this whole thing around the South Africa Events Council. I remember having that discussion right when, basically the day after the 23rd of March, when we were locked down, because Meetings Africa, that is owned by South African Tourism, was actually one of the last trade shows that happened in the world. And we were so bold at that stage when ITB, that is a tourism trade show, announced that they are not sure. And we were saying, no, come to South Africa. We are ready. We don't have COVID. Okay, so yeah, a month later, everything changed. But I think what was a good thing that came out of it is that, and I agree so with everyone, that we are a controlled environment, definitely, and a sector. But it even brought us with those things that we always talk about by talking to each other and working together. And we definitely saw a lot of good that came out of it. I wish that, and I think it is that balance, I wish that we could say, that, yeah, we could just go from one day to another. We ourselves also had a seminar, or a summit, as we call it, the Africa's Travel and Tourism Summit, that happened in Johannesburg. And I remember the day when, whilst we planning it, we were 50 people. And the next time that we were 250, and it was 3-4 days before the event. The industry is not of that nature, unfortunately, that you today can have 100 or 50, and tomorrow you just up it to 250. And I think that is what everyone is saying. And so when we then talk about recovery, it's really to make sure that we have that timely decision now. Get it and let us move. I want to encourage and say, I fully agree. I think South Africa is still out there. We are bidding, we are bidding for, we just heard that the Cricket World Cup, was announced. But we also, for the meetings industry, we have a pipeline full of meetings and conferences and conventions that are coming, maybe smaller, Tony, I agree. We even see that, from the meetings industry, we definitely see that it's a little bit smaller. It's not your 5,000, a lot of them. It is more your 300 to 500, a lot of them. So sometimes, that is also, I always have this thing with numbers, is it important to have the big numbers? And I'm talking now specifically in the convention industry. Or is it actually more meetings with more sectors? So it's also that balance. But just to come back to, so for us, that is part of recovery. For us, is bidding, You know, it's in the future. We can prove that people can start to build up again, you know, in the business. But then also, of course, is building confidence. You know, I think that is the most important thing, is that we need to build confidence for people to want to come out of their houses, that are not too lazy. Like I said, you know, and unfortunately Pumlani lost his connection. But what he was saying is that I feel this, we all need to be on a stage and sit and, you know, and have this with you and have this discussion and have our people that can, you know, go around and say, you know, and hybrid or the virtual part must be an added value. And that is actually how it was in the past, you know, that it's an added value. Now we can put a little bit more. But I'm saying, if I want to, you know, if I wanted to see Justin Bieber on TV, or, you know, not live, then I would watch a TV concert. But that's not what events is about. It's about that whole economy that goes with it, for all the economic impact. It's about building those memories, but more so, it's also about building that profile. So we need to get people out of their slippers and their pajamas, you know, and go back to, you know, to live events. And I think our people are hungry. And then just the last thing to say, that all events are not the same. You know, it's very different. When we look at Devi with, you know, the expos, and when we look at conventions, and then of course, you know, with the either sporting events or the cultural events or music concerts, you know, there's very different things about it and outcomes, you know, for those events. But what I do think is that we need to bring them, you know, we need to keep on talking to each other. And I feel extremely proud as a South African, being in the business events, specifically in the meetings industry, you know, being responsible for the country, you know, to market the country as a meetings destination. I feel extremely proud of our industry on how they help with this recovery, being still positive, but specifically come together and bring the knowledge, you know, and the expertise so that we can build back this sector. Definitely domestic first, like every other country in the world. And just my last point is that we just had participated in IMEX Las Vegas. You know, it's a meetings expo. There was 2,700 exhibitors, 3,000 buyers, global buyers, and 200 countries represented. So we are definitely back, you know, with a bang. We just need to, and then also I need to advertise, we did announce Meetings Africa 2021 at the end of February, you know, to make sure that our sector, recover and come back. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Amanda. And Pums, it's great to have you back. I know we lost you for a few minutes. Welcome back. I think you're still on mute, though.
Yeah, thank you for that, Ninel. I'm sure the conversation kept going, though, without me, because it's not about
it has kept going. It has definitely kept going.
Awesome.
We had, thank you, Amanda. I mean, great and very positive about all the steps that are being taken on your side to push more events this way, and the bidding and everything that's going into it. I was wondering if you felt as positive, Tony, and if you felt as if, you know, sometimes to put together these large scale productions, we do need the input from brands and from corporates. Are they getting involved again in these massive events? What do we need to do to make sure that we do bring them back?
No, we need them. We definitely do need them. We need brands. We need sponsorship. We need whatever assistance we can get. You know, to get back to where we were pre-COVID. I think it's challenging. I think it's challenging for the public. I think it's challenging for corporates at the moment to invest in the entertainment sector right now when there's so many unknowns. Most of our brand partners are in the liquor industry, and it's very difficult for them to put more money behind these shows when they're getting shut down and reopened and shut down and reopened. So their investments, both in the entertainment sector and in their own capacity is struggling. So yeah, corporates are struggling from the pandemic. They're struggling from what's happened to the public's wallets. You know, we're dealing not only with COVID, we're also dealing with exchange rate fluctuations. We're dealing with load shedding, which is hurting people's pockets. So yeah, from a brand point of view, it is vital that we do get them back on board and we show value to the brands. And at the same time, we've got to entice the public to come out of their holes, to start congregating again, to you know, to feel safe, that they can start being around other people, dancing together, being in these crowded environments. And I think there was a stat somewhere when shows started opening in Europe and the US, where sold out shows were showing about 10% no-shows of people who had tickets, but they still weren't coming to the shows for whatever reason. So we've got to build up the public confidence again, and we've got to we've got to make sure that they feel safe and that they feel comfortable, because whatever COVID has done, it has changed a little bit of our psyche and how we now see and react to other people.
Absolutely.
Now, may I add to that? Because I think the corporate thing is a very important discussion. Because if we can get corporates to start to meet again, corporates are now seeing that it's easier to do this, and it's not. You know, and I'm just saying that if you think of meetings, you know, I read the statistic says that when you do it here on the screen, you only generate average 10.3 ideas. Innovative people they hide behind, you know, black holes, you know, or a picture. They are doing all kinds of other things instead of engaging. But when you are physically together, 14.7 ideas, you know, per meeting. And that is the difference. And I think what Tony is saying, it's linked. That's why I'm saying it's interlinked. These industries are so, or these event types are so interlinked. Because if we can get the corporate, the CEO, to make that decision that his people can again come together, there are still corporates in South Africa that are not allowed to meet face to face, because they are now looking at cost and all those things. So that is, I think, building that confidence, because the moment that you in your workplace, if dad or mom or partner, you know, then it's easier to actually then go out as, you know, as families and like Tony say, you know, dance together and have, you know, and building memories. Thanks.
And just going back to the brands about that, I mean, brands don't want to be associated with anything that may have a negative impact on their on their brand. So, you know, they're very skeptical at the moment to get behind an event which may become a super spreader and have their name associated with that. So, yeah, in order for us to get brands back involved, they need to be sitting at the table with us, you know, and understanding what is their return on investment that they're looking for. And that we can deliver it, and that we can deliver it comfortably and confidently. We're ready to do that. I think we're in this industry all ready to get back to work. You know, we put in the hard work to get to where we were pre-COVID. We're ready to build the industry again and put it all behind us.
Yeah, I mean, if I can add to that, I think what specifically as an exhibition industry, but definitely as an events, a kind of a overall events industry, what we've realized through this process is that I think we've been underestimated as a sector. I don't think our value and our kind of impact has really had a seat at the table, and I'm talking about kind of the up the line table through some of our state, our government stakeholders specifically. And I think, if anything, we are starting to maybe get a little bit more of that kind of focus that we probably needed. So that, I think that's been really important. But to go back to the brands, I think that's also critically important, is the education around actually how we do things is incredibly, is safe. It's we can control, we can manage far more than anything I think than any industry. So I think there's a lot of work that we as an industry have to do actually to blow our own horns a lot more, but also to educate and engage with the relevant stakeholders.
That's great feedback. Thank you, Amanda and Debbie, for adding to that. I think we have become more cautious. Brands have been more cautious, and we have to figure out how to bring everybody back to the table. Pums, do you have a comment maybe on how you're working with certain partners and relationships now? And also taking into account that you're in a smaller metro, you mentioned that before, so it's not in Johannesburg or Cape Town. How do you leverage that? How do you keep attracting events to the stadium?
Thank you, Ninel. I think for us, as the Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium, I think that myth, I think we've managed to dispel that. Because I mean, if you look at the caliber of events that we've hosted successfully throughout the years, it shows you that we are capable. I mean, not just the stadium itself, but also the city. I mean, the Ironman, huge. It's been managed, hosted successfully. I mean, we've hosted so many rugby test matches, where the Boks never lost here. That's a good omen, successfully so. Soccer Cup finals. I mean, we will be hosting a music concert now in December, Ebuweleni Music Festival. Usually pre-COVID, it's massive. I mean, it's a sellout affair all the time. So I think from a stadium's perspective and the city in general, I think we've proven that we are capable, of hosting these events. I mean, if you're looking now on the 27th of November, we're hosting a jazz extravaganza, keeping to the COVID protocols. We're hosting Judith Sipuma, and the interest shown by the public has been massive. So I mean, for us, I think we have nothing to prove anymore. We just need the guys like the guys in the panel here to give us a chance and bring some events our way, because we're ready,
Good. We have some comments from the audience here. Glinton the Cock says he totally agrees with you, Amanda. Small but more regular in-person meetings will bring back confidence. And we have a question from, actually, the question from Paul was to Justin, and he was just saying, it was linked to your comment, Pums, about just being in Nelson Mandela Bay as a small city to secure an international act like Justin Bieber. What's that going to take? And then I'm going to just read out the second question as well. That's from Deborah De Souza. If the industry is working together, we can see that, which is necessary to move forward positively. But what's the government planning to do to support the recovery process for the live events? Any comments on either of those questions would be welcome from the panel.
Yeah, I'll take the question from Himpo. Thank you very much for that. So I've been following some of the social media commentary, and there's this meme that I actually found pretty funny where someone had taken like a line through the middle of South Africa and said like South Africa going to big concerts, and the bottom part is Cape Town and the top part is Johannesburg. And it was funny, but it's also pretty true because of the logistics. To move a large tour with 200 people to smaller cities is something that is not very cost effective. And that's the difficulty that we face. And that's the challenge we generally have with Africa. There's not and Tony will second that as well. There's not an act that doesn't ask us about the rest of Africa when coming to South Africa. When they go on the road, they want to play more markets, so we always talk to them about, Durban and Nelson Mandela Bay first, or Gqeberha as it is known today, before we look at the other countries. I mean, I'd much rather play my own country than have to go and take risks in another. But it is a challenge. It's a challenge because in the way in which these tours are constructed, they pay staff on a weekly basis. And when we have to go to the other cities, we break into a second week. So they have a whole week of wages, they have a whole week of extra costs, and it's difficult to make that up. I mean, even if we play, Durban Metro and Nelson Mandela Bay Metro, it's difficult to make the money work. We did it many years ago in 2011 when we played Neil Diamond in all 4 cities, and that was absolutely fantastic. It's one of the most memorable tours I've ever worked on. We had such a blast. But then we were trading at, R5.80 to the dollar. I think we're, on fairness, probably around 6.20 by April 2011 when we did that. So, and that is the challenge, as of today. I think we blew out yesterday. We're trading at 15.70. So that's the difficulty, right? When your costs are based in US dollars, then it doesn't work. So at the moment, the strategy really is to try and do it around the big hubs. And I hate to say this, to get our fans and our customers out of the Eastern Cape into the Western Cape and out of KZN into Gauteng. But it's something that we're always looking at how we can make it work. But it comes down to finances, unfortunately.
And also to add to that, we're a dollar-based industry, buying product in dollars and selling it in rand. So, I mean, we're completely at the mercy of the exchange rate, but so is the paying public. So where we are charging 600, 700, 800 rand a ticket, those tickets internationally are going for 150, 200 US a ticket. So it makes it extremely hard, as Justin said, to get big international touring productions in and out of the country without a circuit of other countries. So it's more expensive for them to come here than to play markets in other states in the US where they're getting double, triple the rates that we can afford.
I mean, to put it this way, I mean, we always have. I mean, there's every day there's a new offer going out for someone like Drake. We've been doing this dance with Drake in South Africa for 5, almost 10 years now, and the reality is that Drake makes more money playing the local club in California than he does coming all this way to play Johannesburg, and that's the reality. People that come here just love playing South Africa. They love South Africa's people. They love their fans. But if it comes down to money, it's just after you've paid the cost of 200 people on an air freight into South Africa, it's not financially strong. So we're always trying to figure out how we can make that work. Unfortunately, we can't control the shipping. We can't control the air freight rates. We can't control the airfares and what they pay. But those are some of the constraints that we face. So it would be lovely if countries like Namibia and Zimbabwe and Botswana and Ghana and Nigeria and Rwanda and Kenya can build and invest into their own industries, and we can go and play multiple dates, because that's what happens when they go to Europe, right? Europe sends an offer, 27 European states, boom. Asia Pacific sends an offer, they've got 8 in Asia and then another 14 in Australia. And then they amortize the costs across all of those markets. So if all these other markets can open up, then there should be a realistic play where you can go to Nelson Mandela Bay, you can go to Durban, and it just becomes another city stop.
That's a very interesting topic, and maybe something to unpack in a next webinar around the African tour circuit and how we can build more of those bridges so we can leverage. And I mean, if I just consider it from the artist side as well, there's even for a South African artist, be able to pick up on that would be hugely valuable. I don't know if anybody has any comments for Deborah. I don't know if you have a quick comment on that, perhaps, Amanda.
Yeah, I suppose. I think the recovery plan, is there. And it is all about. And I mean, she started to say, working together. I think when it's coming to the meetings industry, convention industry, expo, exhibitions, it is very structured, the support. it never changed. Instead, we actually did adapt, to assist our people. We even have now a criteria of virtual, a virtual expo. I know Debbie know because we worked with, some of her events where we are supporting even now a certain percentage of, your virtual expo just for this period of time. So we also adapted our what we call our subvention fund or our bid support. And I think then when it's coming to the other kind of events that we talk about, it is working together with with the tourism authorities and the cities, specifically. Where people will get in-kind support, and having that package. I see that Rashid Lombard said about netball, for instance, that we also hosted. But if I just think of like the Jazz Festival and how the city, and all the role players are playing together, that really didn't change, and it is still there. We just need to, get the events back. I think so. So, are there a recovery plan? There's a full-on recovery plan that talk about how we will assist, our supply chain and all of that. But it is really when we are hosting these events that support. I think an event strategy is something that every tourism authority in South Africa, provincial or city tourism or convention bureaus, definitely has and is still rolling out. And we did adapt, to look at better support in this time of building that confidence up.
Thank you,
So
Amanda.
I suppose I have to say, email. I don't know if the check will be in the mail, but definitely a discussion.
We're going to wrap up. This has been an amazing conversation so far, but maybe just, your final thoughts in 60 seconds, if we could just go around the room, and Pums will end with you. Tony, final thoughts on this conversation, the road to recovery for the event industry.
Yeah, I was just hoping. I just wanted to say that I hope government get more involved with us. I hope they look at. I mean, what Justin Bieber has done is it's created a positive energy. It's said we're back, and the vaccination drive that these events can do to help governments is immense. So I hope there's some support from governments in the future, whether that's in tax breaks or VAT relief or whatever it is. I think they need to come and help the events industry build the vaccination drive and push the vaccination drive. But yeah, hopefully we'll be back to some normality sometime in 2022.
That's brilliant. Thank you. In fact, just so that I don't know if you guys, the panelists, have had a chance to read the chat, but everybody is just commenting and thanking you guys for the positivity. Zuliswa actually said, "Thank you so much we need more positivity. Rebuilding is never easy, but we can do it." So thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
Amanda and Debbie, final quick comments.
From my side, just again, talking from our industry, we are not an insignificant industry. We exhibitions brought 75 billion rand to the South African economy at our last survey we did. Brought 1 million visitors to the country. So we want to come back. We are excited to be back. I mean, my business is hosting a small event in 2 weeks' time, which we can't wait to actually bring people together. IATF is happening this week, quite significantly, I must say. So, yeah, I agree. I think I think that long dark tunnel is showing a little bit of light, which is great. And I think it is just around the collaboration. I know I kind of roll my eyes a little bit when we talk about the COVID cliche of it's bringing people together, but it really has brought a lot of people together. It's brought our industry together, and I think that's been good. I think we've got to just continue on that vein, though. I think when we do start trading again, we mustn't forget about what we've learned out of COVID. I think it's given us a lot of lessons, and we need to take that forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. Any final thoughts? Amanda?
I think for me, I'm very positive. I do believe that, civic pride, who we are, South Africans, we're resilient. And if there is one sector, that is resilient and adaptable, it is this sector. And we absolutely need the sector. I think Debbie already said about the numbers, for us to have an economy going. And then, I think for me, thank you so much that we can have these discussions and that we can keep on having these discussions and that we do work together, and it's not pointing fingers to each other, but rather pointing fingers in and then, go with, with one voice and have these discussions, because events are a catalyst for so many things, but more so than ever before is profiling our country, the place that people want to come and build their stories and memories.
That's amazing. Thank you. Justin, as we wrap up, your final thoughts, please.
Yeah, so look, from our end, look, we believe that it's now common cause that until we vaccinate the vast majority of South Africans, we will as a nation and individuals remain at risk of contracting COVID-19, and we will continue to suffer the many restrictions that have had such a devastating effect on our economic and social lives. So our primary challenge right now lies in stimulating sufficient demand. And as we've seen from the experience around the country, the only way to significantly increase vaccination rates is to implement mandatory vaccination policies and entry restrictions for publicly accessible areas. So we know a lot of people are doing that, thinking about that. We've done that with Justin Bieber. We think that's what's going to happen. That's how we're going to open. So we really just want to urge all of our colleagues in the industry that you have to urgently consider some form of mandatory vaccination policy or risk-adjusted access control that will allow our industry to open up at scale. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. Thank you so much for your insights, as well as you, Debbie, Amanda, and Tony. And Pums, you've brought us all together. This conversation was so significant. I can see from the comments on the chat, everybody just thanking you for the conversation and for the learnings and the insights and the updates from each of the sectors within events. Pums, can you give us some of your closing comments, please?
Definitely, Nell. I think first of all, I'd like to thank you guys again. This has been very informative and eye-opening for me as well, and I hope it has been for everybody else. I think what keeps coming out of these conversations is that collaboration is key, for us to rebuild and sustain going forward. Also, I'd like to point out to Davey and all of you guys that we're open for business. We're ready to host exhibitions, conferences, water sports, marathons, whatever you want to call it, we can host it because we are a multi-purpose venue. With that, I thank you all, and I can't wait to continue these conversations going forward.
Yes. Thank you very much for agreeing to be part of this conversation. I definitely took a lot from it as someone that operates in the music and event space. I learned so much from each of you. Thank you so much. And to everybody that attended and joined, thank you for taking the time to listen in and to pose these questions and comments to us. Hope you took a lot from it as well. And this is the last webinar of this year, but we look forward to many more in the coming year. I think there's so many great topics that are actually food for thought that's come out of this conversation, which can be impact in the future. So thank you very much, Nelson Mandela Bay. Thank you, Pums, and we'll see you in the new year. Thank you.
Thank you.